Hey, Sumalings, what's happening? Happy Thursday. Happy almost holidays. Thank you guys for tuning in today. I'm joined by Ben, who is founder of Help Shelf. Ben, welcome.
Hey, pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Happy to have you. If you aren't familiar with Help Shelf, it is a support tool that we have dubbed the Swiss Army widget of support. And it's on AppSumo right now for $49, down from the regular price of $550. So this is an amazing deal. If any of you guys are using support for your site or your business, you're going to want to stay tuned because Ben is going to take you through a demo and a walk shelf, That's
the next product.
That's the next product. I just gave you an idea there. The walk shelf. We're going to take you through a walkthrough of Help Shelf. Man, I'm having a hard time with that. I think I'm already on vacation mode right now.
I think we're all on vacation mode, aren't we?
Yeah, we're all on vacation mode. So we have over 250 people signed up for today's webinar. So thank you for tuning in. I would love to know, while I'm about to teach you the logistics of this webinar, how many of you have already purchased this deal and how many of you are thinking about it? All right, let's see. Well, we got a couple people telling us where they're from. Chicago, Canary Islands. Guys, welcome. All right, purchased, thinking about it. Bought times 2. I've purchased. Someone's from Berlin. Yay. Daniel's saying he needs to see more and thinking about it. Awesome. So Ben, you have your work cut out for you. We've got several people who are on the fence. So it's going to be your turn to shine and convince these people why they need Help Shelf. So guys, this is how the webinar is going to work. Right now you're seeing Ben and myself, but in a second I'm going to shut down my camera. Ben's going to take over, share his screen and take you through all of the features and highlights of Help Shelf. At any point, if you have questions for him, just go ahead and put it in the chat box, and then I'll be manning the chat box at the end of the webinar. Once he's done the demo, I'll come back on and ask him your questions. If you can't stay until the end, that's okay, because there will be a replay of this webinar, which I will send out later today via email, so you can watch it in its entirety or just catch up on the pieces that you may have missed. So I think I've covered everything. Ben, are you ready to go?
I'm ready, yes.
I'm going to make sure that you can share your screen, and once you do that, I'll shut down my camera, and you will also shut down your camera, and you can take it away.
Cool, sounds good.
Awesome. Let's see. Oh, we got some people from Canada, Berlin, India. I love these sumo links. All hours.
Where's the UK contingent? We need the UK contingent. Come on.
Yeah, where is the UK? Anyone from
European, at least. I think we have Berlin.
I saw that. Sweden.
Fantastic spread. Sweden. Great. Okay, we got some good Europeans there. Cool. No, a really great spread. Hey, Les, UK. Fantastic. London. Okay, they're coming out of the woodwork.
There we go. We just got to tease them out.
Okay, cool. So I'll share the screen in just 2 seconds, actually. I think I'll just give a quick, whilst, because I'll turn my video off when I start sharing the screen as well, so that you can see more of the screen.
Perfect. I'm going to turn my camera and mic off right now and let you take it away.
Perfect. But yeah, I'll keep my video on for just a short second so you can see a human face. Often helps, I think, while I just intro sort of high level around the product and why it might be something you will want to at least look at. So really, Help Shelf exists to help your customers find the content that they need, and content can be anything around, user guides, FAQs, videos, tutorials, feature roadmaps, whatever it might be. Because the reality is, the content that your customers are looking for almost certainly exists somewhere in your wider ecosystem, if only they could find it. And so what typically happens in this day and age is that people will, and we all do it. I mean, I'm as much of a to blame for that as well. I mean, we all are too quickly looking for an answer, and so we will often click contact or the live chat or whatever that button happens to be on your site too early on in that process, and that's great for the customer. They get that touch point that they need, but quite often what they're asking for is available, as I mentioned, somewhere in your web or somewhere on one of your external sources. YouTube, could be Vimeo could be on your roadmap, Trello, your knowledge base, could be in a bunch of different places. So on a very basic level, Help Shelf exists to help surface all of that content and contain it within the Help Shelf widget, so that your customers can actually find what they need the help with in order to essentially reduce the volume of support tickets that you guys get as a business, as an individual, or whatever your setup happens to be. So that's what it does on a basic level, but there's actually a bunch of other, when you start thinking about adding all of those various sources and integrations and help resources into one place, there's actually a lot of other interesting things that you can start doing with it. So I'll touch on those in a minute. And when I've just touched on those sort of high points, I'll give you a demo just so you can actually properly see what it all means and what some of those integrations are and how you can customize the widget. But let's look at a few use cases here. So you can, for the first time, combine your chat or help desk provider. Let's say, for example, Intercom or Drift or Live Agent. You can combine that with whatever your knowledge base happens to be. So whether that's Zendesk or Help Docs, or could also be on Live Agent, you can actually mix and match, and that's simple. But actually, quite often we're led to believe that if we're going with Live Agent, or if we're going with Help Docs, or going with Intercom, we're tied into their particular ecosystem. And if they offer a help desk and knowledge base, we have to use both of those together. So for the first time, actually, with a tool like Help Shelf, you can actually mix and match these and use the ones that make the most sense for you. It might also be that you want to introduce your knowledge base, but you don't want to use one of the off-the-shelf integrations out there for chat and help desk and all that sort of stuff, and support tickets. You might simply want a basic email to be sent. So you can truly mix and match the right combination that works for you. And when you start thinking of it in that sort of sense, what you're essentially also doing is combining all of those widgets that you quite often will end up having over time on your site: roadmap widget, changelog, blog, contact us, support, help docs. Actually, that can get quite busy. So you can actually combine all that into one widget. And that's really kind of the second thing that we set out to try and solve. So I'll show you how that sort of plays out in a minute as well. Okay, now we've had some really great feedback since we launched itself. And I'll talk to you about some of the things that we've been doing in a moment. But I think it's probably about time just to show you what it does, so you can get a real sort of for it. So just bear with me 2 seconds while I share my screen. And please, someone just mention in the chat if you can't see what I'm sharing, and I will pause whilst I sort everything out. But for now, 1 second, you should. I'm going to stop my video now. Okay, can I just get a quick yes from someone in the chat? Let me know if you can see that. That'd be great. Perfect. Thanks, Daniel. Oh, lots of yeses. Excellent. I'll take that as a yes. Okay, so when you sign up, log into Help Shelf, almost the first thing that you'll be asked to do is to link your site, or to set up your site. So your site might be, your actual business website. It could be, if you have a client, it could be their website. It could be a subdomain. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's essentially the place where you are looking to host your Help Shelf widget. So just for us, as a silly example, this is our Help Shelf site, and this is our widget down here. So in our case, if we were adding it to our own site, sorry, getting a bit messy, we would create a site called Help Shelf, and we would enter the URL for it. And once that's entered, we are straight to the dashboard. So what I've set up here is a completely empty site within Help Shelf, and we're going to go from top to bottom and just set it up basically with some standard settings. So you can actually see how you go about setting yours up and what some of those options are. So this first page, I'm just going to skip over because it's clearly going to be empty until we have things working. But just to give you a sense as to some of the things you can start doing in terms of reporting, once you combine your help resources, your contact button, and all those sorts of things within that Help Shelf widget, over time, what we're doing is we're actually logging and tracking the interactions that your users, your website visitors are having across your site. So we can actually give you information on how many videos they're watching, what sort of content they're looking at, what is your most popular content across all of your channels. Now that's a really simple point actually, but if you think about it, there are existing knowledge-based tools that will give you reports like that. They will say, look, this is the top knowledge-based article that people are looking at. But actually, if you've got demos on YouTube, and you've got articles on your knowledge base, and you've got blog posts on your blog, well, which is the most popular across all of those? And sometimes having that bird's eye view can actually give you a really powerful sort of sense as to what your customers are actually looking for and care about. So that's what essentially gets populated in this report dashboard when you start activating your widgets and it starts getting used. So sorry, it's a bit of a backwards way around. We're looking at what you would end up looking at later on. For now, it's empty. So let's look at the actual setup process so we can see what we actually do. Now, we've broken it down into a few key steps, hopefully very, very simple, in this setup page here. And by the way, when you sign up, you'll be taken straight in here. So if you can't find it, it will take you straight in here automatically. And it's asking you a few basic questions about the way that you want this help shelf widget to work on the site. So the first question is, how do you want people to contact you? So as I mentioned before, you might already use Zendesk, you might use Intercom, you might use Drift, Live Agent, Customerly, a whole bunch of providers out there. Or you might simply say, look, I don't use any of those. I just want a simple way for people to contact me via email. But up until this date, all I've had is a simple sort of contact page and all that sort of stuff. So that's the first question. How do you want people to contact you? So we click the Add Provider button here, and we're now being presented with the list of integrations that we are currently live with, that we currently work with in terms of contact, or what we call them as help desk providers. And just as a case in point, since we launched on AppSumo, we have had some amazing feedback, and we've launched Customerly, Facebook Messenger, what else have we launched on here? Crisp, I think, as well, and a couple of other ones as well. So we're adding new ones all the time, and we've had some fantastic feedback. There are more than out there, and we've had some great feedback. We're adding about 2 or 3 every few days, so keep an eye out for these. If you don't see yours listed here, don't worry, it's almost certain that we'll have it added at some point. I'll give you a link actually at the end to our public roadmap, so that you can actually subscribe to the particular integration that you're looking out for, so that you can keep up to date with those. So in our case, in this example, let's say we're going to add Intercom. So we want Intercom to be the way that our customers and our users can get in touch with us. So we click Intercom, we enter the app ID. Now, this is going to take far too long if I show you how to find the app ID and everything else, but fear not, because every single integration will have this little box here with a link to a help guide. So if I just open that, we've written a help guide for every single integration that we are live with. So it tells you exactly where to find that information. So don't worry, we'll tell you exactly where to look for it. But essentially, we add that app ID in the case of Intercom here, click Save, and one moment. And it's now popping me on to the next question. We can just look back there and we can see it's added Intercom. I can configure it. If I want to change that ID, I can, of course, remove it and change it with another one if I want to. But for now, I'm happy with that. Let's now go to the next question, which is, where does your product content live? So I touched on this in the sort of examples of use cases and situations you might want to use this product in. But if you think about it, look, where is your content? Is it in YouTube? Have you done demos or webinars like this that you put on there as recordings? Have you blog posts that perhaps talk about particular features that you are launching or have launched? Maybe you've got a knowledge base, which is the most common one on one of the knowledge base providers. Or maybe you have a knowledge base, but it doesn't exist on one of those funky providers out there like Drift and Intercom and Live Agents and all those sorts of things. Maybe it just exists on your own WordPress website, and that's fine. You can link all those together. So we're going to start adding our content sources. And the way to think about your content sources are basically places that exist where you have content that is either about your product or about how to use your product that you think at some point your customers might want to find. So just as a jumping off point here, if I look at our example widget here, if I click there, you can see that we've linked this, in this example widget, we've linked some content, and so it's available. I can search for it as a user. So we kind of, when you're adding your content sources here, anything that you add here will be added to your own widget so that your customers can start searching for that content and start having it made available to them at various points. So let's come up with a couple of examples here. So we click Add, and again, we're shown a list of the providers here. And again, just like with the help desk providers, we're adding many more over time. In fact, since we launched with, let me remind myself, we launched a YouTube integration based on some feedback. That was a massively popular one. And also the super powerful RSS feed. Now, this one is actually a game changer. It means that anything really that has an RSS feed, and it's not just a blog that has an RSS feed, by the way, you can plug in here, provide the RSS feed URL, and we will keep that in sync, that content in sync, so that it shows up in your search widget, in your help desk widget, for your customers to find. So that example I gave before, where you have your own knowledge base on, say, your own WordPress website, because you don't want to pay monthly for, you know, Intercom or Help Docs or Live Agent or any other tool out there. You've just hosted it yourself. Actually, finally now, you can link that RSS feed URL via this integration here, and we will keep that knowledge-based content in sync and make it available within that widget. So we kind of just, if you think about it, you know, your knowledge base is only great if people go to your knowledge base. So the point about having this widget available at all points across your site for your visitors or for your signed in users, doesn't matter which ones, means that they can actually, in theory, have a great chance of finding the content that you've written. Let's add a couple of examples here. I'm going to add Vimeo. So we've got a few videos on there. So I'm just going to click this. It's going to send me over here. I'm going to click allow, give some access to it. Should send me back. Okay, great. It's added Vimeo. I'm now going to add Help Docs, which is a knowledge base provider, and we've got, that's where all of our help guides are stored. So I'm adding my access token. Again, don't worry, you've got a user guide here in order to add it. And I'm also going to add just a random RSS feed because ironically we haven't actually got our own blog yet. One step at a time. So we're actually going to import the RSS feed from Help Docs blog, just so you can see some dummy examples there. So I'm going to paste that into there. That's the RSS feed. If you don't know what the RSS feed is, let us know. We've got a chat that you can click through here, and we can help you find it. Almost every website has an RSS feed. Certainly every blog has an RSS feed. And with some of the knowledge-based WordPress plugins that we've seen, or packages, they generally tend to have an RSS feed as well. So if you're not sure, let us know. But in most cases, it should be quite straightforward. So again, we're going to click save on that. So I've got 3 here now. And you'll see that it tells me that it's now syncing the content. So this will let you know when it's doing something in the background. So I'm just going to waffle on for another 30 seconds because that's probably how long it will take before we can see something come through. But those are the 3 content sources that I've added. It's now going to automatically, without you doing anything else, keep that up to date. So the second you add, well, not the second, actually, we keep it up to date once a day, although soon you'll be able to force the sync sooner than that if you wanted to. But essentially, when you next add a Vimeo video or a help doc or an RSS article for your knowledge base, whatever that happens to be, Help Shelf will pick it up and will sync it to your Help Shelf widget. So let's say we're happy with that. It's now asking me, do you have a public roadmap? Now I've just added this in my test before, so let's just re-add that so you can see what I mean there. So a roadmap may not be relevant for you, and if you don't have one, and indeed if you don't have any content or contact, just click I don't need one. Ideally, you should have at least one of these, otherwise it's going to be a very empty widget. But a roadmap is essentially a place where, for us anyway, I'll just show you our example. It's what we use Trello. Really, really straightforward way for our users to let us know the features that they really want. So we've got a great board here, and we want our customers to have access to that because quite often when they contact us through the support ticket system, actually they have a question about something we're working on or whether we're working on something. So we want to make that roadmap button just as prominent as our contact button, so people know where to go for that. So in our case, we've got one. We're going to click Roadmap Provider, and I'm going to select Trello, pop in my URL. And by the way, you can add any URL at all. Doesn't matter where it lives. So whether it's on Plutio or wherever else, you can add that as a URL, and it will link it there for you. So I've now got lot of my content now combined under one place. Next, I'm going to set some default settings. So I'm going to leave this as the default actually, because I'm going to show you in a minute some of the advanced things that you can do with the widget in a second. But essentially you can specify some introduction text that you can change depending on whether they are a visitor or a logged in user. So if they're logged in, you might want to provide a bit more information about some things they might want to do, or maybe just personalize it a bit more. Once we're happy, click save. And then finally, and this is the bit that's most important, the bit that requires you perhaps to go to your developer, or if you have the plugin on WordPress or whatever your site happens to be, you essentially, just like any other script, like Google Analytics or anything like that, you'll need to add the script to your site. Now, one key point here, if I just scroll back up here, in our case, we added Intercom. So if you already or previously had Intercom, the chat widget, on your site, you would need to remove that script from your site because you're essentially going to be replacing it with the Help Shelf script. What the script does is takes charge of loading that help desk widget for you, or in our case, intercom. So it does all that for you, so you don't need to load it twice. So just sometimes you can get caught out with that by essentially not removing your previous help widget from your site. So just be careful for that. The most important thing you need is just copy and paste it in. If you have any questions at all, just let us know. Once it's there, that's it, it's done. Any content that we resync will automatically appear in your widget. It's there to be found. So before I show you some of the settings that we can tweak, let's just show you what a widget actually looks like, what the help shelf widget looks like. I had a quick click on it a second ago, so you might have seen a glimpse at it. But let's just have a slightly deeper look at what this looks like. So this is the one that you actually find if you sign up as a customer to Help Shelf through the AppSumo deal. Then this is the Help Shelf widget that you will see in terms of that's how you contact us, Help Shelf, and that's how you find Help Shelf content if you need help with it. So just bear that in mind as you're looking at it. So we've got a contact button here, we've got a roadmap, and then we've got some popular resources. So these are actually the most popular resources that people are finding or searching for and clicking into so far, and it surfaces those to the top. So we are tracking interactions. So when, if this was on your site, when people search for content, if they click on it, if they watch a video, we're tracking that. And so we will, every day we refresh your widget, and if we discover that there's a particular article that's becoming popular, we'll bring that to the top. We'll have it bubble it to the top, which is really, really powerful. What's more important, just related to that, is that if you set up a page rule, and I'll show you what a page rule is in a second, I'm intentionally skimming over this, but if you essentially set up each of your pages within your site, you might only do your main pages like pricing or my account or something important like that, then we will start tracking popular content within each of those pages. So if we discover that there's a particular help doc or video that people are always clicking on when they're on your pricing page, well, we will start to bubble that up to the top, just like we are here, but only on the pricing page. So it becomes an intelligent widget that really understands what it is your customers are doing. Remember, the goal here is to help put content, or the content that your customers need, in front of them, so that they only really need to click contact when they actually have a genuine support request, so that we can reduce that strain on your business. But as you'll see, hiding the contact button, that's not, it's equal weight, I suppose, between the content and the contact button. So in our case, we added intercom, if you remember, so clicking contact then essentially triggers that, sends us through to the familiar intercom widget that we're used to, and when we close that, it reloads the help shelf widget as well. So there's a seamless integration between the help desk widget that you add and when people click the contact button. So we will sort of switch you through. And the roadmap button, as I showed you here, click that and it will send us out to the roadmap so people can really see what's going on there. Now we will be over time doing quite a few more intelligent things with the roadmap content, so that people can actually find the content in terms of feature requests and status of various feature requests within the search pane as well. So watch out for that. There's going to be some really exciting things to come. And finally, you can search for content. This is the important part, really, because what we're doing here is surfacing the popular stuff, and that's great for the majority. But for those that want to dig a bit deeper, they can. And let's just say, agent, and let's see what we find. So it's found 2 help articles for Live Agent. We've got one for the content, one for the help desk, so people can find it, click into it, and they've got the content that they need. And if they don't find what they need help with, the contact button is never more than a click or 2 away. So that's essentially the widget as it lives today. It is a super powerful tool already, and believe me, based on the feedback that we've received already and the ideas that we've been coming up with by talking closely with a lot of you Sumolings, it's going to get a hell of a lot better over the coming weeks and months. So do watch this space. A lot of you have been asking about some of the customizations you can do, branding and all that sort of stuff. So let's jump into that quickly, and let's have a look there. Now, Christy, tell me if I'm going on for too long. Looking at my watch, it seems to be okay, but do let me know if I'm rattling on for too much. But I think there's some really important stuff still to come. So hopefully I've got a bit of time.
You're doing great on time, Ben. No problem.
Excellent. Okay, so we have actually rolled out an update, quite an important one, to the widget page that you're looking at now just yesterday, based on some feedback. So for those who have already purchased and who already signed up, let me just highlight to you some of those things that you might want to go in now and just tweak some of those things. So first of all, you can change the widget position from right to left. So at the moment, this one is showing on the right. You can have it go on the left. Super simple, but for many of you, or some of you, you want to have that preference. Secondly, you can now choose your language. Now, please don't be offended if your language is not in there. It almost certainly won't be, because we've only launched with 4. But just today, we had 2 people request a couple more languages, and they're going to help us populate them. It will probably take about 20 minutes per language. We've really optimized how this multilingual aspect works. So if your language is not there, let me know. And if you're willing to just help translate, if you're not, we can do it ourselves. It'll take us half an hour to do it on Google Translate. It's not our native, so probably it won't be as accurate as yours would be, but we can genuinely, if you catch us during UK office hours, we will have your language in place within 30, 40 minutes. So yeah, do let us know if your language is not there. So you can change that. You can also change and override the button label here as well. So that's really for the people who have already signed up and who are familiar with this stuff and just wanted to have a highlight as to the things that have been added since they signed up. But let's now talk about for those who have, looking at this for the first time. So what is it that you can actually change here? Well, for a bit of fun, let's change this into a AppSumo branded widget, because they're a cool company. We like them. So let's change the primary color to their lovely green. Let's change the secondary color to their orangey yellowy thing. Let's upload their logo. So you can pop that there. And let's just keep it as that for now and just click update. Let's just see how that looks. Cool, okay, so I think we'd agree that looks pretty AppSumo-ish. I like that. And that's basically it. There will be a lot more that you can do later on, but I think you'll hopefully agree that with a couple of core colors, uploading your logo, there's a lot that you can do there. You can also muck about with the style of the cards here, so you can have it as a card or list view. So let's just have a quick look at what that looks like. So we can have card view, so a slightly bigger view there, which depending on the nature of your content, you might want to do that. Personally, I quite like the brevity of the small one, just to fit more into a window, but totally up to you. If you have stacked, or if you're thinking about stacking 2 codes through AppSumo, then you will have this option available to you, which is to disable the help shelf branding. Basically removes this button here. Also lets you change the icon for the actual launcher itself. So this is the default icon that you get. You can of course change the color, but if you want to change the branding to yourself, you can do that here. But you need to have stacked 2 codes in order to do that. So just in case what you're looking at here is an example account where they have stacked 2 codes. So you wouldn't see the widget launcher logo and this option here if you haven't. So just to let you know there. It's a no-brainer basically. I mean, it's such a great deal to stack both. You get that option for life, which is fantastic. The other options you can do, as I mentioned before, language. So choose your language here, and we'll make sure that all of the language that we're referring to here, so the placeholder text there, the placeholder text there, the button text, we will change based on that particular language. You can override the text on here, so looking for help, maybe you want to phrase that slightly differently. Certainly if you're changing the language, you'll want to do that in your own language. And as I mentioned before, you might want a slightly different message depending on whether the user is logged in or logged out on your site. Now you will need to code that up on your site to differentiate between the two. And I can talk to you later on about that if needs be. But you might want a slightly different message, so you have the option to do that as well. Cool, so that is the widget. Much more still to come over the coming weeks with regards to what you will be able to do with this. But this is just the beginning. It's super powerful. I hope you like it, and hopefully it's an easy process for you to stamp your brand upon it. So let's now jump to page rules. This can and will get a lot more clever over time, but I just want to touch on one of the basic things that we can do right now. Let me just delete that so I can go through that process again. A page rule is optional, first of all. So if you're signing up and you're looking at this and you're thinking, do I need to add every single one of my pages from my site into here? The answer is no. It's completely optional. Help Shelf will function entirely perfectly without these rules. This is only really for the pro user once you're getting a bit into it and you just want to customize a bit more how Help Shelf behaves on a particular page. So let's take an example. I think I touched on one a few minutes ago where you have a pricing page and you want to link, let's say you have 3 FAQs that are really, really important, or 10 FAQs, doesn't really matter the number, that you want to link and make available on the pricing page, but it doesn't make sense to have them linked on every other page. You can add the pricing page here on this section here, and then link those pieces of content that we've synced for you through, whether it's the knowledge base or your blog post or whatever it might be. You can link them to that particular page rule, and then from that point forwards, when someone lands on your pricing page, Help Shelf will detect that, and it will go, oh, there's a custom rule for this page. This person's, I'm being told to show these 5 articles or these 5 knowledge base articles or whatever they happen to be on this particular page. And as I mentioned before, when you set up a page rule, it means that we start gathering data for that page as well. So we can start informing you which are the most popular pieces of content that people are searching for and clicking into from that particular page as well. And that's what it does today, but very, very soon you'll be able to do even more with page rules as well, such as disabling Help Shelf on a particular page. Sometimes you want the chat widget, whether that's Intercom or Drift, to immediately show on pages that are, high conversion points, whereas other pages you want Help Shelf to take center stage. And that's really quite important when you think about it. So you can set up different rules, and that's something that you'll be able to do very soon. So let's do an example here. I'm going to create a page rule for this rule. So a bit meta here. A page rule for the page rules page. So I put in the title, page rules. I'm going to type in the URL of this page. Now, the system will work out what the URL is. You can either do it relative, if that makes sense to you, or you can do the actual full URL. It doesn't really matter. We'll work it out for you. Click next. What we're doing here is we're going up. We recognize that there's a few parts to this URL. So it's got S. If you look up here, you can see S, AppSumo test pages. And what it's asking for, this is getting a bit deep, so I'll try and skim over it, because if you need more help, I'm more than happy to jump on a separate one-on-one call. But for those that are keen to get started with this, it's worth looking at. In this URL, this part here is actually dynamic, because no matter what, if you are on your site within Help Shelf, this bit would change depending on what the name is of your site. So it's asking me here, are any of these parts dynamic? So I can click that, click save, and it's now going to add that there. So it basically recognizes that whenever it detects that someone's on a URL that starts with S, ends with pages, and has some random dynamic text in between, then it's going to detect that as matching this page rule. I probably should have simplified it by not putting a dynamic one in there, but I know a bunch of you have been asking about how that dynamic part works, so I wanted to just highlight that. I hope that made sense. I will have a look in a minute. I'm sure there are a bunch of chat questions on there about it. We can certainly go into more depth later on if we need to. But now that we've added that, and we're basically telling Help Shelf that on this page, if someone opens the Help Shelf widget, I want something unique to happen, we can start setting up what that unique stuff is. So we can set a description. So first of all, I might say, look, if someone lands on this page, if they click the Help Shelf widget, I don't want the standard intro text to appear here. I actually want to say something specific about that particular page. So it might be, hey, welcome. I wrote something earlier just so you're not getting bored of me typing out, but I might want to say something like, hey, welcome to Page Rules. Here you can tell Help Shelf how to show specific content on a page. So really, really simple, but it basically means that we will now show that intro text when people click onto that particular page. And then we can also link content. So again, that example I was giving before, where we say, look, there's actually 3 really useful user guides or knowledge base articles or whatever it might be that people will probably want to look at when they're on this page. So you can click link, select the content that we've synced already. So I'm just randomly choosing some, click save, and we've now linked 3 pieces of content to this particular page rule. So when someone now clicks on this widget on this particular page, instead of showing the site-wide popular resources, we will show those 3 that you selected initially. Of course, they can always search for the full sort of database, if you will, but it just allows you to really surface the ones that you think are going to be super important to them, if indeed you think there are any. Cool. So that is that one. Very last thing to look at now is just, and there's not much to look at here other than just to sort of show you what's been synced, which is the synced content. So this is the content that we've pulled in automatically for you. So if you remember, when we went to the setup section, we linked an RSS feed from a blog. We linked which is this icon here. So this is all the stuff that's pulled in there. We linked our Vimeo videos. So these are all the Vimeo videos that we had based on a bunch of interviews that we did, conference we lots of those. So these are all videos. And then we linked in our knowledge base articles through Help Desk, which is the Help Desk provider, and those are all pulled in from here as well. So it's really just there to show you what's in there, and we will live keep that up to date, so you don't need to worry about that. Once it's linked, it's linked. You can do basic things like just view the content in case you want to see the actual page itself, and that will take you through to the original content itself, just in case you're not sure what it is that it's linking through to, and you can hide it as well. So by default, content that you sync through will be included in your Help Shelf widget. It's possible that you might have the odd video coming through or whatever it might be that you don't want to show in there. So you can actually hide it if you want to, and then it won't appear in your widget. So you have that control as well. And so that's basically it. Hopefully you've seen that this is a really, really powerful way to actually combine all of those things. And what you end up with is just one widget. Roadmap there, into your help docs, because people end up just clicking the chat button because that's the quickest, simplest way for them to get the answer. Now they can actually find the content, engage with your roadmap, and soon we'll be adding extra integrations like a button to book a call or to link in with your scheduling software as well. So just to provide alternative ways for people to actually reach out to you. So much, much more to come. I hope what you've seen is at least open your eyes to some of the things that you can do. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and have a look at the chat. I'm hoping for lots and lots of questions here, hopefully. So let's see what we have coming through. And Christy, I guess I will pull you back. Now, there you are. Fantastic.
I'm here. I've got some questions for you.
Cool.
I also wanted to tell you, Ben, who is watching the webinar, said, "This is truly amazing. Just got it set up easily during your demo." So yay, we already have someone who set it up as you were talking. And I hope we didn't lose Ben.
Am I back?
Okay, I was like.
Okay, I just realized I hope my audio was coming through because I just realized that the audio was going through my laptop, not my microphone.
We heard it loud and clear. I think it was good. We didn't have any complaints. So I think they were all able to hear you. And also, as a tidbit, we have lots of people offering to help you with different languages. So you're going to be busy with that. That would be
great. It's literally, we've got like 10 phrases. It's super simple. We've got a spreadsheet. We've got ready to go, a Google Docs. Send me an email, ben@helpshelf.co, and let me know the language that you'd like to write it or help out with. I'll send you an immediate link back if I'm awake. And within very short amount of time, you can get it. That'd be fantastic. So yeah, please do.
Perfect. All right. So let's see. We had a few questions about whether or not the widget could only be shown on certain pages, or does it have to be shown on every?
So there's two answers here. First of all, it is shown on every page for now, but we have had a number of requests for that. So we will be rolling that feature out soon. So that page rules area that I showed you a moment ago, soon you'll be able to go in there and specifically pinpoint particular pages within your site where you can say, hey, for this page, don't show the Help Shelf widget. The other way of answering that is, and this is only really if you're in charge of development or if you have a team that helps you with your site, you of course can choose not to include the JavaScript script on particular pages if you wanted to. It would be easier to do it through the page rules once we have that set up, but that is an option for you as well.
Awesome, great. So we have a couple questions about whether or not there are future integrations or whether Help Shelf works actually currently with WordPress or Kajabi.
Okay, so first of all, you're not looking at my screen anymore, but let me just, as an aside, we have an integrations page. I know a number of you have seen this already. I'm just pasting a link into the chat. This is our public integrations page. It's a marketing page to a certain extent, but it's live. So the second we add a new integration, it immediately and dynamically appears on that list. So that is your source of truth, if you will. So if you're ever not sure about those that we're live with today, check that out. If you're not sure about whether we have an integration planned or coming up, click the roadmap link in the widget, and that will send you through to the Trello board. You can watch a particular card if you want, and we've got a sequence of statuses that we set based on research, not possible. Some of them don't provide APIs. Some of them, lots of them actually, we've got some deep relations already with the providers who are, scrambling to actually create the APIs exclusively for us because they really want to get involved. Support Hero being one of them. They created their API just for us. So go to those two places, definitely. In terms of the WordPress thing, the short answer there, that was a longer one before that, right, is that you can, with WordPress, link it through as an RSS feed. And that is the most universal way, whether it's WordPress, whether it's Ghost as the platform for your blog, or whatever it happens to be, you'll have an RSS feed almost certainly behind there, and you can link that today through there. We do have a request, which might also be what you're asking about there, to create an actual WordPress plugin, but that's more as a simpler way to have the help shelf widget actually installed on your site, versus you having to add the script yourself. So probably about 5 answers in one there. I hope at least one of those gave you something. Let me know if not.
Yes, you probably answered many questions with that one, so that's good. We had a couple questions about GDPR, and then, so the entire question was, please think about adding GDPR for Facebook Messenger. It is really needed here. Yes,
this is a great example of why I personally love working with you guys, you AppSumo sort of community, because that was exactly one of the first requests we had. I forget the person's name, after we added and launched our Facebook Messenger plugin, because a lot of you are having problems with adding that to your site, nothing to do with Help Shelf, just because of the GDPR issue. And so what we're looking to roll out, probably in the new year now, just because Christmas is very quickly looming, is this option that you can specify for any of the help desk widgets, so the chat widgets that you choose to add, to say, look, add an additional GDPR overlay to this, so that when someone clicks the contact button, they are going to be presented with a GDPR compliant question to confirm whether or not they're happy for what that integration is that they see if they click OK to be tracking them, essentially. Because remember, from Help Shelf's perspective, we don't, we pass it off in many ways. We pass the responsibility, I suppose, off to the Facebook Messenger widget, off to Intercom. So you will, the legal answer is you'll need to have them confirm what it is what their approach is, essentially. But for that added sort of protection, we will have this overlay soon that you'll be able to add, so that you can just, particularly with Messenger, because they don't have that baked in, so that you can really manage that GDPR consent in a slightly more intuitive way.
Okay, great. Yeah, lots of people were asking about that. We had a question, can I integrate Help Shelf through Google Tag Manager?
Short answer is I don't know. I've got a feeling someone has already added it though. So if anyone wants to be on the cutting edge, the bold few that want to try it out, let me know. I would love to know, because if it is possible, then we'll add a user guide so other people can find that in the future. I don't know. Oh, Bradley's using it. Fantastic. David's using it as well. So yes, perfect. Okay. So I will make sure a user guide is added for that. Love it.
Awesome. Good. Let's see. So Lori's asking, how does the RSS feed pull in WordPress pages? I'm only seeing posts.
Yeah, so this will depend upon how your WordPress site is set up. So you typically, and it does change or vary from site to site, typically WordPress creates 2 RSS feed URLs. One that is going to provide a feed of the pages, and one that is going to provide a feed of the blog posts. So it sounds like you've included the URL from the blog post feed, not the page feed. It really will depend upon your site installation. One little hack that you could do, sort of, is once you're on your site, just right mouse click anywhere on your site and click View Source, and then you'll look at the source code from behind there and do a search there. So and the RSS, and that should locate the line of code in that source code for your site, the RSS URL, and you'll probably, if you're lucky, see 2 next to each other. And in the URL somewhere, it should give you a clue. It should say something like whatever your website is.com/pages.feed, and maybe the one underneath that will be posts./feed or something like that. So if you're not sure, give us a shout on the support, but that's usually the best way to find it.
Awesome. Okay, we have Norm asking, for managing clients and their sites, do we have a single dashboard where we can manage them all, or do we need a separate account for each website/client?
Okay, so you can manage multiple sites, and once you sign up as an AppSumo customer, so we had a bunch of requests for expansion opportunities when we first launched a few weeks ago for additional capacity. So we actually launched an unlimited sites add-on, totally optional. You probably won't need it, but for those of you that do, it's there available for, we'll probably keep it open for the next couple of weeks. When you do that, you can add multiple sites. You can already add, I think it's 5 sites, I think, or is it 10 perhaps if you stack. So that should be more than enough. Once you do that, they can all be managed through that one account. We don't have a single dashboard as such that lets you track the reports, if you will, from across all of them, but we may do that in the future. But you can certainly, access. You don't have to log in and out of accounts and all that sort of stuff. It's all under one roof.
Perfect. And so if you are managing multiple accounts, can each of those widgets have different brand colors and different
good point. Info? Yes, good point, because we've had a lot of questions actually around how do we count a unique site? So it's actually, the better way to think about it is unique widget, because it might be that you create a help shelf widget, in the way I've showed you in the screen demo there, with the branding and linking the content sources. And because of the way your business is set up, you might actually have 20 subdomains, 15 different domains. That's fine. That counts as one. You're going to install that same widget, that same help shelf widget, and all of those on your empire, then that's perfectly fine. That counts as one site. But if you want to create a separate, unique help shelf widget with its own collection of integrations, with its own branding, then that technically will be classified as a second site. So that's the way to think about it. It almost doesn't matter how many subdomains and everything else. So I hope that answered that one.
Yep, no, that's good. We just had several questions coming in asking about the unlimited upgrade. How do they get that?
So you will be sent an email, I think it's about 12 hours after you redeem your AppSumo code. So you need to not have just purchased it on AppSumo, but you need to actually also redeem it on our site, because otherwise we don't know that you exist, essentially. So do that, and then about 12 hours after that, we give you a bit of time to get under the hood, to sort of understand whether or not you need those add-ons, and then we'll send you a quick email, give you a link to those, and then you can go from there. And we'll keep, as I say, we'll keep them open for probably 2 or 3 more weeks. Okay,
great. Someone is asking, can the widget branding vary between pages of a given site?
Oh, interesting. So I'd love to know a bit more about this use case. I haven't heard this one before. Short answer is no, you can't do that today, but there's no reason why we couldn't bake that into the page rules to say, hey, on the pricing page, do this. But I'd love to learn a bit more. Maybe just send me an email, ben@helpshelf.co. Let me know what it is specifically you want to change. I'm guessing it's not the logo or anything. Maybe the brand colors to show you're in the member site or the member section of your site versus maybe on the visitor side, something like that. That'd be interesting. Oob is saying brand colors. So I'm wondering, I'm guessing that was you that asked the question there. Yeah, interesting. You can't today, but let us know. And let's get that added to the roadmap. If you head over to the roadmap now, you should be able to add it there as a suggestion, and we'll get to reviewing that. That sounds good.
I love that. I love how open you are to suggestions and recommendations. It's amazing.
Oh, don't worry. I'll say no if it's a terrible suggestion as well. Honestly, you guys are fantastic. I mean, I generally find that you are so good at just knowing what would work really well. You get the product and you understand. You can see where it can sort of evolve to, and I love that. It feeds me. So please keep the suggestions coming.
Awesome. So A. Smith is asking, do the Vimeo and YouTube videos need to be public in order to be linked in Help Shelf?
Good question. I'd need to double check our integration code there. I think off memory, I think they need to be public or unlisted, but not private. So they need to be, I'm 99% sure they need to be, as long as someone, if they were to have the URL, could access it, then it should be fine. It will be visible within Help Shelf. Obviously, if it's private and you have to be logged in or have to be individually invited, then that would obviously not work, because that's not the way. This is a public widget essentially, or certainly public to your private users if you put it on your logged in site.
Of course. Okay. So Ben is asking, Support Hero has the ability to send me all of the searches that didn't have an answer and sends me an email with the question. If I implement Help Shelf to replace the Support Hero widget, will I still get these notifications so I can add articles to Support Hero? Yeah,
really, really good question, because what you essentially are doing when you integrate and set up Help Shelf, and then let's take the example, you're integrating Support Hero with it. although people can still get to your Support Hero site, it's certainly hiding that. When you click a link, they get taken to your Support Hero site, so they can continue to search in there if they wanted to. It's also true that the majority of the searches will be handled now by Help Shelf versus Support Hero. So you may well find that your reports, your unmatched search report in Support Hero reduces, because now a lot of that's being handled by Help Shelf. Today, you don't get a report on unmatched searches, but we have had that as a request, and I guarantee you that's going to be out there very, very soon, because we'd be stupid not to, right? That's an obvious thing to do. And we certainly don't want you to be switching over to us and integrating with Support Hero and then finding that something that you were getting before you're now lacking. So yes, that will be on its way soon. Head over to the roadmap, watch it, and then whenever we have an update, we will let you know.
Awesome. And I want you to know, like, we've had lots of suggestions for third-party video hosting integrations. So guys, check out their integrations roadmap to see if it's on the roadmap. Let's see.
And what I do is, if you look at the Trello items there, we're just in the halfway point of reorganizing it, actually. So you'll see this long list on the left, but then you'll see that we've actually broken it down into categories. So help desk integrations, content, roadmap, scheduling. And so we're gradually moving them across and setting a status for them so that we can actually tell you what's going on there. And in most cases, let's say, for example, where there's no public API currently, we'll put a note there to say on this date, there was no public API, and that we've sent an email and we've contacted the company in question. And whenever they send us a reply, I'm going to put that reply, or the majority of it, in that Trello widget, so that you guys can see exactly what's going on. Because I know from my perspective, working with, if you're a customer for another company, all you want is that feature, and you're never always given the information that you want. So we're going to keep that super transparent. But just today, I've had 3 people come back to me, 3 separate businesses who are rolling out updates to their APIs to cater for us. So we should be working pretty quickly here. So check out the roadmap and you'll see things being added all the time.
Awesome. Someone's asking, does Help Shelf search the title of a post, video, or document page and its contents, or just the title?
Yeah, both. So the body and the title.
Awesome. And the I know you talked about the top posts, the content that is showed the most gets bubbled to the top, but someone's asking, is that strictly based on views or some other parameter?
It's based on the number of actual clicks. So we want to see the actual intent there, because as you probably saw when you looked at the widget there, maybe if you do the card style, if you remember that from the widget customization page, you see a bit more text, but you're never going to see enough text most of the time to get the full information that you need. So we only really want to take it as something that people have found information on if they click the link and then they're reading that content.
Okay, great. And so Elizabeth is saying in AppSumo, it says there's a 2-code limit, but on the cart, there's a 3-code option. Did we update that?
I don't know. I mean, that's, you tell me. As far as I know, there's a 2-code limit. That's all I know.
There is a 2-code limit.
It's above my pay grade.
Yes.
I think it is, yeah.
Elizabeth, I'm going to reach out to our developers and check that out. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. That
I don't think so. No,
yeah, great. Awesome. So Ben, this has been amazing. And I think people are really excited about Help Shelf, especially in knowing how open-minded you are to their suggestions. So with that said, we're going to wrap things up now, but I would love it if you could just once again tell them how to get a hold of you so they can keep reaching out to you with those recommendations.
Sure. Can I just answer one more question? Because I was just sort of half keeping an eye on the chat, and I've seen a few people ask about the 5,000 monthly tracked users, and it's really, this is really important. I want people to understand how that works, because fundamentally we set up our plans hopefully so that the vast majority of you will never reach that limit. But there are of course always some that will go over it. So definitely recommend go for the stacking, because that's the most most high value way that you can actually double that. And then once you have done that, we will send you options through our exclusive AppSumo add-ons if you want to boost it even further, so that we give you plenty of options there. But we've had a bunch of questions in the chat I've seen about what happens if you do reach that limit, irrespective of what that limit is. So first of all, we will never disable the Help Shelf widget. We will never turn off your chat ability or something like that. So if you've integrated Intercom, for example, or Live Agent as your chat widget, that people will still be able to contact you. They're not going to suddenly see dead space. I should say there are some exceptions. If you habitually go over and you won't respond to our emails and blah, 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 then there are some super extreme situations, as I'm sure you can appreciate as a business there. But generally speaking, we're going to keep those things open. What we do disable, if you go over that, is we will disable the reporting, tracking, and also live search for help content as well. As I'm sure you can appreciate, if we've got thousands and thousands of people all with these widgets, and then each one of those thousands of people has thousands of people themselves searching for help content, that's a lot of bandwidth on our side of people hitting our servers searching for all of your content. So if you go over your limits, that's one of the things that we will pause, but we will always give you notice. We will never do it overnight or without telling you. We will give you a few weeks notice and let you know, hey, you're getting close to your limit. This is what's going to happen if it does. And then we have some add-ons if you want to. For just $10, I think they are for an additional 1,000 monthly tracked users. But again, most of you shouldn't need that. But if you do, give me a shout, let me know, and I can let you know about some of the add-ons that we have available to help you boost that. But that'd be great. And just in terms of what we count as a monthly tracked user, because we've had a lot of people ask that on the comments board as well. Essentially, any interaction with the help shelf widget counts as a tracked user. So if they click the widget to open it, that counts. If they search, that counts. But we only count one item per user per month. So if you are doing it, if you click it 50 million times, we still only count you once because you're one person. And we don't count just visitors. They have to do something with the widget. So if you've got 20,000 people on your site watching, reading your content every day, we're not going to count those unless they actually click into the widget. So don't worry at all. It's going to be a lot less than your actual number of users there. So sorry, Christina. I just wanted to touch on that because it's been probably the most frequent question on the AppSumo deal page.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for addressing that. And actually, you bring up a really good point, guys. Views and the questions, definitely go ahead. I'm sure you are bound to find answers to the questions that you have right now because, like I said, you Sumolings are vocal, and that deal page is rife with information. So again, Ben, thank you for doing this. I'm not sure if you've given them your email address. I know you've given it several times. So if you could just go ahead one last time for those who are tuning in late, where they can reach out to you, and then we'll say goodbye.
There we go. I've popped it into the chat. It's ben@helpshelf.co. Please be kind. Don't just only send it if it's super important. I've got hundreds and hundreds of emails already. But if you've got a concern or a question, I'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much for those that have purchased already or thinking about it. We could not be more excited about the steps ahead for this product. It's going to get really exciting in the new year. So hopefully you'll come along for the ride.
Yes, perfect. All right. So guys, thank you for tuning in. Ben, thank you again for doing this.
Cool. Cheers, guys.
And bye.
Pleasure. Cheers, guys. Take care. Bye.